Why do I always destroy every relationship I've ever had? I don't understand it, so I wanted to have a chat about it. Without fail, I've always ruined every single one. And I don't really understand what the reason is. If it's self-sabotage or... Yeah, I don't know why it always keeps happening. I think therapy's got me thinking about my life, like going back, and it's thrown up some really interesting questions. Like all night last night, I was just thinking about what we talked about. I'm always checking if that's recording. Have you seen that? This video is chaotic. I'm going to get... it got me reflecting on what my patterns are. And I don't know. I'm starting to think, is it something to do with, like, I'm on the spectrum and I don't say the right thing all the time. I find it hard to connect with people, very hard. I find eye contact very hard. I know that was one thing that that's one thing she mentioned early on in our relationship, before I realized that I was autistic. So that must freak people out. The fact that I don't necessarily always look in the eye, because I find it a bit difficult. Alfie's the same. Although today we went to get cakes and he was in the back seat. I put him in the seat, and we got this thing now where we'll just stare at each other when he's in the back. It's magical. Because that boy didn't look at us at all. And it's just this intense stare he gives me. And I was crying. I was literally in tears. It was so beautiful. He just looks, and his expression is so deep. It's like he knows something. He knows so much in those eyes. But his facial expression doesn't really change. But he's like an old soul, I swear. But I don't get to see that side of him. But I totally relate. Like, I don't like to look people in the eye. I've learned to do it with books even. I used to teach myself how to do it. So I've got a lot better now. But as an autistic person, being in a relationship is hard. If you're on the spectrum, or you totally identify with this, like, things are awkward. Socially handling situations is awkward. Like, I'm sure it didn't help that I was awkward around social situations. I don't like social situations, and I always want to leave, and it's sensory overload. I get overloaded and I get exhausted. I'm sure that's a nightmare to live with. I'm sure that's annoying. So maybe that's something, but I can't change that. So there's nothing I can do about that. That's just the way my brain works. And that's why I identify with Alfie so much, because I know what he's going through. I know what he's thinking. And he's feeling all the emotions. Like, for me, in a relationship, I'm feeling all the emotions, but I don't say it because it doesn't occur to me to put words to the emotions. And sometimes I don't have words for the emotions. I think guys are also different than women in that way. We don't communicate in the same way. So that, I'm sure that it seems like I'm shut down. And I know Laura had a problem with me sort of shutting down and needing space. And I do, if I get into a confrontation, I need to walk away and I need to be on my own and just process it. Or it takes me a long time to process emotions. And that's another thing that I think is related to the spectrum. So, yeah, I'm wondering if my autism has contributed to me literally ruining every relationship. I mean, I think I've been the cause of every breakup. I definitely have. I think everyone that I've been out with would agree with that. I should ask them. That's quite a good idea for a video. Should I do that? Eventually, when I feel better, like, maybe I can make a little video about ask them. That'd be weird. That'd be weird. I'm sure I could maybe do that. See, I was thinking that is probably a contributing factor to people being like at the end, just, I can't deal with this. I think having depression is also very hard to live with. Very hard to live with, because you can't always explain it, and it's not obvious. Something doesn't happen and then you're sad, like with most people. You're always sad, and for no reason. And that must be also tricky. I think I'm just trying to make sense of it all. It's funny, people are very adamant about telling me to take a break from these videos. I'm not going to, because I've got so much free time on my hands. I've got nothing else to do except do therapy. And when I come back from therapy, I feel really depressed and really down. And this is the only thing that stops me being depressed. You've got to understand that. So I make them, and I feel good because I feel like it's going to people that may be helped. And it changes something. So I'm doing this selfishly to avoid going into the dark spiral, because I do that every afternoon. About this time, I start to spiral. So I do this, and it makes me feel better. And I'm sorry if you don't like it, but I'm not going to stop doing something that's really working for me and really, really stopping the depressive thoughts and the dark thoughts. And the reason I release it is because someone else might be having the same thing. I originally started making these videos. I was in such a state. You saw the videos. I was so just wounded and done. I just started to record just because I was like bouncing around this room. Like I was properly psychotic. Not psychotic, but I couldn't stop walking. I was having a panic attack. I was panicking and I was anxious. Walk, step, 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 walk, step, step, step. And I just thought, I saw this and I saw this. And I thought, right, I'm going to record, just going to record. I didn't expect to release it. And when I started to talk, and I started, like, just imagine you're making a video, talk about your feelings. And there was no one around. I don't talk to anyone. So I was talking to myself. Although now I'm talking to Dr. Amen. I'm going to call him every week. I need to do that. He's great. And he really understands me. And I'm starting to make friends. My thing is, my sponsor said I've got to get out of my isolation. So I'm trying to make friends. It's very difficult. So difficult as a man to make friends. I don't know why. It's hard to be vulnerable person to person. And yet I make these videos. So that's weird. Where was I? Yeah, I've realized that I'm the cause of every single breakup. I can't blame anyone else. And it normally ends with me shutting down, just going into this silent state, which I feel in my heart is part autism, part depression, part just me. But it's a shutdown. It's an emotional shutdown. And I just disassociate, as apparently is what it's called. And that tends to end the relationships. I feel like most times that's the state that I've got into, and people are just like, well, I'm done because this is annoying. I'm boring. I got weird, like, I'm not very good at life stuff. Like, I got weird eating habits. Like, I don't eat dinner. And I don't do social occasions. I'm making myself sound great, aren't I? It must be. This is like dream date. Yeah, I don't drink. I don't eat dinner. I don't like doing anything social. I've got autism, which means I don't look people in the eye, and I find it difficult to communicate. Oh wow! Now I'm starting to realise now. Yeah, that's enough right there. I could go on, but that's enough. God, why did I start making this video? God, normally these get me out of my depression. This one's making it worse. I'm only joking. Is that recording? I always do that. Is that recording? Have you noticed? That's my thing. It's going to be my catchphrase. Is that recording? I'm excited to make some stuff out of this room. I'm really enjoying Patreon. I'm releasing exclusive music on Patreon and an exclusive video every week. Patreon/Stephen Hilton. Go there if you want to have a listen. Please subscribe if you like what I'm doing, or if you find it helpful. And if you think I'm a psycho, don't do it. I can't really. I'm still processing. I haven't watched Laura's video yet, but I got messages from people saying she was like very upbeat in it, and they were pissed. But I know that's not. That's just how she's handling it. It's different to how I'm handling it. So don't judge how people go through this. I guess everyone's different. I really hope I can make a positive video about this one day, but I really don't feel positive about it. I just don't feel like I'm in a place to make a funny or a happy video. Your guys' comments has been beautiful and so supportive, and I really appreciate it right now. People don't understand, like, take a break from social media. You guys are actually my life right now. I know it's weird to not have real life people and to talk, but I'm autistic, so this is perfect for me. I couldn't talk to real people like this, although apparently I've got to try. So I'm not going to stop, because I want to make myself feel better, which this does, and I want to help other people if they're having the same thing. If I had videos to watch of a guy going through a breakup, I would totally be watching them now, because I would love that. So, and especially guys, I mean, we don't talk. The guy's suicide rate is ridiculous because we don't talk. And people say man up, and it's not helpful. It's not helpful because manning up and not talking is the opposite of being mentally well. So that's a big cause of a lot of mental illness for guys. And guys don't really also have a lot of all the stuff on the internet. And I like this stuff, but all the stuff for guys is all about like being like alpha, masculine, man up kind of vibe. That's the whole thing online. And I like listening to that stuff, but it isn't really me. Like I'll listen to Joe Rogan or something like that to be like, I'm gonna be a proper man today. I'm gonna listen to Joe Rogan, and then he talks about hunting, and I get upset, and then I'm like, oh, that's not gonna work. No offense, Joe Rogan. I think your podcast is great, but yeah, I listen to it to try and be like all manly, and it doesn't work. It never works. So there's no archetype for me to look at that's like me. There isn't anyone. But I'm sure there's guys, sensitive guys like me out there, right? And maybe this helps. Maybe you don't have to be like Joe Rogan, or all the stuff online. This crazy, that Andrew Tate stuff. That's mental. That's so opposite from me. It's almost like a different species. And then who's the other big one online for guys? Jordan Peterson. He seems like a sensitive soul, and he's deteriorating. I feel like he's breaking down a bit. Sad to see, because I can see it in him, and it happened to me, and I can see he's spiraling. And perhaps he's too sensitive, and he doesn't really believe what he's saying. And it's no offense to those guys. Well, apart from Andrew Tate, I don't like Andrew Tate, but sometimes if I want to try and convince myself that I'm a proper man, I'll try and listen to those people, but it never works. But it's entertaining. But I don't have a role model or an archetypal person. Can you think of anyone? Can you think of anyone that's like sensitive that I could listen to for inspiration? and he's got autism, possibly, and is a musician. Not a musician. The only reason I say that is because music is my spirit. That's another reason that I may be a nightmare in relationships. I'm obsessed with music. I'm obsessed. That's all I talk about. So it's what's called a special interest if you're autistic. It's my special interest, and I've used it to become really successful, so it worked. But I only want to talk about that and synthesizers and cars, just like Alfie. So maybe that's why. I should make a video about talking to previous relationships. They probably kick me in the face, though. If you're a previous relationship watching this, comment below if you'd like to make a video about what happened. Thanks for listening to me. It really helps me that you're here. I love you guys. And I will speak to you tomorrow.